Monday was a very tricky slate. A lot of guys that were highly owned, like Mania, possibly Odorizzi, kind of got shelled, man. They were cruising for a second, then got shelled. Ashby still got there, but we're looking at a new slate. It's Tuesday. It is loaded with pitching. Make sure you check out our optimizer projection models and hop in that expert chat at windailysports.com. I'm Jay. I'm with Dave, like we always are on a Tuesday slate. And Dave, I got to say, pitching is stacked up. You got McClanahan at the top. You got your boy Nola pitching for the Phillies. You got Strider, discounted Strider. If we talked about Strider under 9K about 4 weeks ago, you probably hit the lock button, but he's coming off a couple, rough starts. You got Rondon, 9,800 going against Arizona. You got Luis Garcia, cheap 9,100 going against Oakland. Montas, I guess, but you're going against Houston. Kind of scary. Josiah Gray, been pitching all right, but going against the Dodgers, stay away from that. And then the guy that I think is also interesting is Kirby, 8,500 going against Texas. I don't really target Texas, but Kirby's been good. And then the Mets really haven't been hitting, man. If it wasn't for like the onslaught late in that game on Sunday night, they've been really struggling to hit. So Montgomery, 8,300, he's pretty much getting 5 to 6 Ks a start here. So talk about it, Dave, man. I know that's a long intro, but where are you at with pitching? Because there's so many different options on this slate.
Yeah, it's probably going to be ace and, a 1B for me. I really love McClanahan. I know that's easy to say, but I say that when I said fade Fried on Monday. So I'm saying now I'm feeling the top guy. And there's every reason to love McClanahan, right? Leads the majors in ERA, 1.71, was the all-star starter for the AL. But what's even more impressive, just lately, 7 straight games of 1 earned runs or less, 11 of his last 12 with 1 earned or less, and that one that wasn't was 2 earned runs. So it's not like anybody's hitting this guy. He did see Baltimore earlier in the season. It was when he was still kind of getting loose, but 4 1/3, 7 Ks, no earned runs. And then also, Baltimore strikes out a ton against lefties. They've kind of corrected a little bit against righties, but third highest K rate against lefties, 25.3%. They only bat .223 against lefties. That's down to 24th. So I just think we have a good matchup. I know Baltimore got to Kluber, but I think McClanahan's going to come in and kind of right that ship for Tampa. So I really do love him up top.
Yeah, and then Nola, he pitches well against Atlanta, 15 innings, 18 Ks, 5 earned runs, averaging 30 against them in 2 starts. I don't know if I'm going to go there. Atlanta's just a team that I just pretty much fade pitchers against because they've been really hitting the ball well for the past month and a half. I like Strider, though, man. The
Yes.
Phillies, they're in a situation where they're struggling. They're not too happy. They don't got Bryce Harper no more. Strider's coming off his 2 worst starts of the season. Prior to that, lights out, even against good teams like the Dodgers or St. Louis. 12 Ks against St. Louis, 7 Ks against the Dodgers. Got roughed up against the Mets a little bit. Only went 4 2/3. They got to his pitch count. And Washington hit him up for 5 earned runs before the All-Star break. But that rest has probably done some work for him. 8,700. It's going to be tough to pass up. But what do you see out of this game against the Phillies? I can see, a good percentage of people wanting to go back to Nola, but also a good percentage of people taking that discount on Strider at 8,700 on DraftKings.
Yeah, I would take Strider. And what you said earlier, dead on about Nola, pitched very well against the Braves so far this year. But both those games were must-wins for the Phillies. They were at the end of the series, and he really stepped up and kind of shut the door. Now, if the Phillies won game 1, I'm not saying he's not going to have that same momentum, but I just think he's in a different situation. Like you said, with that Atlanta lineup, hot Philadelphia, it does concern me a little bit. And in the other game, he did have a huge lead and was able to pitch with a lead. So I don't know if he'll get there. So I like Strider a lot more, much more discounted. Had 1 game against the Phillies earlier in the season, 2.2 innings, and racks up 18 DK points with 5 Ks, got the dub. That was when he was kind of transitioning to the starter role. The Phillies have K'd a lot lately, even versus, slop like Drew Smyly and Justin Steele. They've been K'ing. So I think Strider's a great opportunity here. So I would lean him a lot more than I would lean Nola. I'm going to punch in Strider.
Yeah, I'm kind of off Nola. Same thing with Rodon. He
Yeah.
can go out there and impress and get you 35, 40 points. He has that ceiling in him, but really struggling, inconsistent. If I'm paying up, I'm with you on McClanahan. I like Strider at 8,700. And then I love the matchup against Oakland. I know they got to Odorizzi, but Luis Garcia, 9,100, makes a lot of sense to me. He's been consistently good. At 9,100, you get 20 points. You're pretty damn happy. And I think you have a good possibility at the win as well. I'm going to stay away from Montas. Just bad matchup. I'm going to stay away from Taiwan Walker. Bad matchup. Same thing with Gray. The other guy that's interesting, like I said, Kirby at 8,500 against Texas makes some sense to get different. And Montgomery, 8,300 against the Mets. These two guys, 8,500, 8,300, both make sense. What's your thoughts on those two? And I just want to get a take on Clevenger. What do you see from him? He's going against Detroit. And then Barrios, who's been completely upside down. I can't get this guy right. I feel like I'm the only one playing him when he goes negative. And then when I get him, I come off him, he drops 30, 20, 25. So any love for these guys in that 8K range? Kirby, Montgomery, Clevenger, or Barrios?
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you with Garcia up top. I think that's going to be a good play. Might be one that's probably not played heavily after watching what Odorizzi did. So I'm there. But then when we get down to 8Ks, so Kirby got pushed down to the minors for 2 weeks. And I know a little bit was, all-star break and just
Yep.
keeping him sharp. But Texas, they're a team that really has struggled lately. They just got swept by Seattle last week. So I think you're on to something there. Texas not playing well against their rivals in the AL West. I think Kirby could pop and have a surprising game. I have liked his games against Texas earlier in the season too. He had one game where he registered 12.5 points, but went 6 innings. So if we can get a little bit more Ks out of him, I think we've got potential for 2x value. But the one I probably like the most is Barrios. It's weird. I'm with you. But there's something going on in Toronto. After that huge sweep this
Yep.
weekend in Boston, that one game 28-5, that firing of the manager, I keep going back to that in the middle of the Philly series, I think has really sparked them a little bit. Barrios has had 4 straight starts with 3 earned runs or less, positive DK points. So I think you can find some value there. St. Louis scares us, right? But they're righty heavy. So if he can get that curve going and he can get some of that junk moving, he struck out 12 Phillies or 13 in that one game recently. He's still a high volume K pitcher. So Barrios is probably that guy I think we could get a high ceiling on.
Yeah, and I'll mention this guy because we do have a core slate. There are going to be bats that you want to go out there and load up on. If you do need a value guy on DraftKings specifically, you can't go this way on FanDuel because you want the top, one of the top 2 or 3 starters. And I don't think he ends there, but Spencer Watkins, when Baltimore has gotten hot, their pitching is holding up as well. He's 5,800 on DraftKings. If you want to go with a top end guy, whether it's McClanahan and one of the 9K guys or either 8,500 guy, and you want to load up, he's been 19 points or better in his last 4 starts. You're going against the White Sox, Minnesota, Texas, and the Cubs. He's pitching at home. Baltimore is raking here. I know they have a really tough matchup against McClanahan, so he probably does not get the win. It's going to be a tight game, but you never know. And Watkins has been pretty damn good for the price tag. If you're getting 12 to 15 from him, I think you're in a perfect spot as long as your bats pay off. Can you get behind a Watkins play, or is there anybody else that you see, under $7,000 that make any sense to go up there and trot out there and take a shot in GPPs?
Yeah, I could get behind a Watkins play. My only concern there is Tampa does hit righties pretty well. They didn't tonight or on Monday with Voth, but I think Watkins, those games, that stretch he's doing, I could see some value in him. I'm also looking at Winkowski a little bit from Boston. He's not putting up great numbers, but he has had 6 straight games of 5 innings or more, averaging just about 16 DK points in that stretch. It's a guy there. Cleveland, another scattered team. Always got the fear of Ramirez and some of the other hitters, but they can really fade on you quick. So Winkowski, Watkins, 2 guys I would consider. Had it with Greinke, got lucky with that on Monday. So I think there is value when you look deeper, and especially if you're going to pay for McClanahan, you might have to dip below that 7K range. So I think you're on to something with Watkins. I think there's value there.
Yeah, 100%. You got to take some shots in GPPs. That's the place to go to. Now, flip the conversation. Talk about some stacks. We have a Coors Field game. You got Kopech against Marquez. There will be ownership there. There's going to be a high total out of Vegas. Of course, with that game, we have some, other pitchers that are, prone to have some bad outings here. Where are you leaning on your stacks? Are you attacking, this Met game with Walker and Montgomery? Are you attacking, some of these lower end pitching, maybe going the San Diego stack? Where's your first spot to look at on Tuesday night?
Well, when you come off a series of scoring 40 runs in 3 games, I'm going to stack the Toronto Blue Jays going against Palante. He's a guy that set up 12 earned runs in his last 3. I think they're going back home, getting a little bit of home cooking there. I just think they've caught on to something. Since July 1st, they're batting 301, which is the highest in MLB. Right now, there's not much stopping that lineup, and I would be remiss if I passed on a guy on a stack against a guy that I just don't trust much in Palante. So that's my top priority stack. But I do think, you mentioned another one, and I think out there in Colorado, we could have some fireworks. Marquez is absolutely, he's been good at times, but he's terrible at home. His home ERA is 6.63. We could see some White Sox fireworks when they go to Coors tomorrow too.
Yeah, one thing I'll mention too, just to circle back on Berrios, Goldschmidt and Arenado, I believe both of them won't be traveling with the mandate. So those are two of their best bats, potential MVP and Goldschmidt out of the lineup. So that definitely gives a bump to Berrios there. Betting markets, it's something that you definitely got to factor in if you want to take a chance on Berrios at 7,900. You potentially have their best two, bats out of the lineup there. Other stacks to look at, yeah, Marquez has struggled. White Sox definitely play. Kopech, same notion. He struggled. Minnesota, Milwaukee, you got Bundy versus Small here. These are two teams that you can stack up. Milwaukee is more on the side of a hitter's park inside the dome there. So I think that's a spot to go to. And then you got, some teams potentially with, Gilbert, who we thought was going to start for a second, on Monday, and I had Mercedes and Flores and all the righties lined up. He's let up a bunch of home runs, 6 home runs in the last 4 games. So that's a team that I think you can stack up as long as Gilbert does end up pitching on Tuesday. Minnesota, Milwaukee in the spot. Boston, they're going to be facing an opener and then, a long reliever here. So they're in a nice spot to stack up as well. And San Diego, Seattle, with Rodriguez most likely out for some time here, I think that lineup does change. He was bringing a lot of energy to that lineup, so got to see what he ends up doing. Out of those stacks I mentioned, anything pop up to you, Dave, is as one of those stacks being, one that you really do like?
Yeah, I mean, I think I do like the San Diego angle, but there's one that's sneaky that I kind of like. I wonder if you do too, and that's Kansas City. Jose Suarez is bad. I mean, he's let up 12 earned runs last 3. His ERA is 5.6. Kansas City's top 10 in a lot of stats versus lefties. We don't think of Kansas City as a hitting team, but when you stack Merrifield, you get Bobby Witt, you can see some value. I was wondering, have you pounded against Suarez this year? Because I feel like there's some times that we actually can take value there.
Yeah, with Suarez, I definitely stacked against him. He just came out of a Dodger lineup that got to him early. He let up 3 home runs, gave up 3 walks and 3 2/3. So I had him there. He's had some tough matchups. Casey's a team that I don't stack often, though. Ever since Sal Perez kind of left that lineup, that's changed a lot. I know he's supposed to come back soon, but he's been out for quite some time. So when he comes back, I end up stacking him. Bobby Witt was out on Monday as well. Got to see what's up with him, if he's going to be out an extended time, or if he's in the way he's been hitting, it definitely pushes me above. He's got 14 home runs in the year, but he didn't start on Monday with a hamstring issue. Yeah. So I need to see those guys in a lineup, maybe as like a small mini stack with a couple guys that you mentioned, a Merrifield or maybe a Dozier. 2 or 3 guys in that lineup could hit him. So I do like it, but no full stack until Bobby Witt and Sal Perez are back for me. I just don't think they get there, but they're going to be supremely under-owned So there's definitely a position where you go after and get them. Dodgers in play as well.
Yep.
Like the Giants a bunch, going against Gilbert. They should be in a good spot. I can see both the Yankees and Mets playing to the over. The over-under right now was 8 in that game. I think that game does go over. A lot of nerves. It's going to be hot again in New York as well. So I think that's a game that you can target. And then outside of that, Coors Field always in play. Any bets you're looking at? I know the board's not totally open right now, but anything that you're starting to eye or going to mention in your article later on?
Yeah, definitely. We're going to look at Strider. We're going to look at Berrios. Those 2K props are going to be tempting there. I think anything in the 6.5 range is really good for Strider. If we can get a touch lower for Berrios, definitely going to eye up that. McClanahan's going to be tough. He's hit his K prop 85% of the time, but I feel like that one might pop a little closer to 8.5. So those other two, though, Strider and Berrios. I mean, Berrios, I think, has 26 Ks in the last 3 starts. So, and like you just mentioned, I mean, great point with Goldschmidt and Arenado not making the trip across the border. So I think those two pop right now. Going to keep an eye on some of the other games, but I want to see some weather conditions and such first.
Any updates? Have you heard any rumors since we last spoke about Juan Soto? Is he going to get signed this year? Is it going to go to next year? What's your thoughts before we head out of here?
Yeah, I still think he goes. I think we were 50-50 last time I talked. Maybe I'm at 51-49 now. That weight that he's carrying on that team, I think doesn't help. And like you said, Josh, we talked about it earlier. Josh Bell's probably going to go. That's like a 90+% chance of happening. So once he goes, why let him hang around? Why let Soto hang around? But what I'm hearing is, a few teams kind of, with good farm systems starting to pop into the equation, like the Cardinals, like the Mariners, and even, oh my God, the Dodgers. And we've already seen what they've done with the Nationals, getting Trey Turner, getting Max Scherzer. So,
It better not happen. And I think it'd be kind of funny, though, whoever does get Soto, as long as it's not the Mets, whoever does get Soto, if Josh Bell outperforms him for this stretch run, because Bell's been more consistently hitting the entire year, flashing that power as well. He's playing defense. He's out there pretty much every day. So whoever gets Josh Bell, I feel like gets the bargain deal in the short term. And obviously in the long term, Soto's got, a longer career ahead of him, more upside and all that. But I think Josh Bell, interesting piece. I want to see where he goes. I think he's going to help a team a bunch. And then, from the Mets fan in me, I really want Wilson Contreras too. If I can't get Soto, I can't get Bell. We really need to catch him, man. Our 2 catchers with Nito and McCann and Mazika, they're just probably the league worst trio of catchers right now. No power at all. So Contreras will definitely help the staff and also help, get some hits and stuff like that. So how you feeling about your Phillies, man? They're making the playoffs after a big win on Monday, or are they on the wrong side?
They got to wake up. I can tell you that. We had a little bit of friction over the weekend. Castellanos is really underperforming, and he got into argument with one of our reporters.
Saw that.
Yeah, some booing going on, but booing I don't think bothers him. He gets it. He's getting paid a lot of money. It was more of the way the question was asked, and it kind of shuffled the lineup on Sunday. Now they're moving Schwarber down to 2. He's 1 hit in his last 24. So if they don't start hitting soon, it's going to be a problem, because now it looks like Eflin's out maybe for the rest of the year with some leg injuries. So they're going to have to make some moves. Now, I was hoping it was for a reliever and maybe a center fielder. Now it's looking like you might even have to add a starter. And if you have to do all that at the trade deadline to save your season, I'm starting to get a little nervous. And I'll say I'm probably not as optimistic as I was a week ago.
Yeah, things change in a week, and
yeah,
hopefully we both get some good news. Hopefully the Grom gets back. Hopefully we get some reinforcements with trades. But everybody have a profitable Tuesday. We'll be back on Wednesday to break down the MLB slate. And don't forget, Tuesday night, we got our golf show that's about to kick off at 8 p.m. We got a special surprise guest, Sia, Spencer, Joel. We'll be kicking it off. They've been super hot, taking down big tournaments, hitting outright. So give them a follow. Make sure you like and subscribe to the channel. And make sure you come back for more action tomorrow and the rest of the week on WinDailySports.com.